It's been reported that eBay founder created the site so that his wife, who was an avid collector of Pez dispensers to trade them with other people, that's a heartwarming story. It's a total lie from eBay's old marketing team. Let's look at the real story of eBay. Pierre Omidyar loved computer programming from an early age at school. He would sneak out of his classes to go use one of the school's computers, where he'd teach himself how to code, and in 1991, he co-founded an e-commerce site called Ink Development. However, he soon came up with an idea where instead of the normal business-to-consumer model that everyone else was using, why not let consumers sell to each other? Unfortunately, none of the partners at his company thought this idea was worth pursuing. So in 1995, Pierre decided to just go it alone and designed a site called AuctionWeb. It had an extremely basic design, was really just a side project for Pierre. But it was the first place online where anyone could list their items for sale for the rest of the world and have people bid on them. The first item Pierre put up for sale was a broken laser pointer. Yet amazingly, there was a bidding war on the item, and it eventually sold for $14.83 p.m. Is the winner of the auction to check he understood the item was broken, but the buyer said it was cheaper for him to repair a broken laser pointer and buy a new one. Pierre was surprised by the sale, but it made him realize just how huge the potential was for an online marketplace like this. Now, initially, this auction site was totally free to use, but then Pay as internet service provider contacted him to see that they were going to increase his bill because of the high amount of traffic his website was getting. So in order to fund the extra money he was going to have to pay to keep the site running, Geared decided to start charging users as a percentage of the final item sale price. It would be 5% for any items under $25 and 2.5%. If an item sold for more than in 1997, AuctionWeb changed their name to eBay. That's not actually the name Pierre wanted. He wanted to call it EchoBay. But that domain was already taken by a mining company, so he shortened it to eBay.com. Instead, in the first month, it recorded eBay only made around $1,000 in revenue, but by the end of the second year, it made around $400,000 in revenue, and the year after that, they did over $5 million. And the money just kept rolling in with more and more people buying and selling items. The main reason for this rapid growth is that eBay is very much a site that benefit from network effects, meaning the more people who use the platform, the more valuable it becomes because there's more buyers and sellers, and there's more items and sales, which brings in yet more buyers and sellers. Before long, people were buying and selling pretty much everything on eBay. However, a huge part of eBay's initial rise was collectible items, and at one point, Beanie Babies accounted for around 10% of sales. On the sites, eBay leveraged the fact that the internet is global, meaning people with a niche interest in any sort of collectibles could for the first time simply type an item into the search box and get it shipped to their door. With things going so well, in 1998, eBay had its IPO and began selling its shares to the public on the stock markets. On the first day of trading, the share price increased 163%. As a result, Pierre became a billionaire overnight, just 3 years after starting the website from home as a side hobby. For a little while, it seemed eBay could do no wrong. Fortune listed them as one of the 8 fastest growing companies on the planet, and because eBay was such a simple universal concept, it was fairly easy to introduce eBay in countries all over the world, and so its popularity just grew and grew. eBay then went on to acquire PayPal in 2002, so the eBay users could easily make payments. This was a double win for eBay, because then they not only got paid per transaction on eBay, but people also took a percentage of the sales price too. So eBay was getting paid twice. In fact, at this point, with all that money rolling in, eBay began acting more like a giant conglomeration because they went on to acquire over 50 other companies, including Skype in 2004, Hive and StubHub in 2007. So, bearing all of this in mind, surely eBay should have gone on to win the online shopping war and be the #1 site for buying and selling things online. And yet, in 2020, eBay had a revenue of a little over $10 billion, whereas Amazon had a revenue of over $386 billion. Amazon has been growing much faster and making much more money. And there's 3 interesting reasons for this. The first is that Amazon originally had their own auction platform called Z Shops. That was basically a copy of eBay and a totally separate part of the Amazon sites. But it wasn't really that popular. So Amazon made what seemed like a very controversial decision. They started letting independent sellers list their products on Amazon's main product pages. Many thought that Amazon would cannibalize their own sales by doing this because it meant that if a third-party seller undercut Amazon's own price, Amazon would show the listing of the third-party seller instead. But in the long run, this was a brilliant move, as it meant sellers would compete with each other to drive down the price, helping Amazon become known for low prices, whilst also expanding the amount of items Amazon offers. Interestingly, a lot of people who buy from Amazon still don't even realize that over 60% of sales in Amazon are from third-party sellers, not Amazon themselves. Secondly, Amazon turned what should have been eBay's biggest strength into a weakness, which is that because eBay is a platform that doesn't own any inventory itself, it should save a huge amount of money on storage costs. But Amazon changed the dynamic when they introduced Prime membership and started offering next-day delivery or even same-day delivery. eBay obviously couldn't compete with these fast shipping times, but then the final key factor in Amazon's dominance over eBay is to focus on customer support. Jeff Bezos has always insisted that customer satisfaction is their #1 priority. Whereas eBay in the early days was notorious for having very limited support, no phone number to contact, and you basically took on a lot of the risk yourself, which led to plenty of eBay horror stories, like people being sent empty boxes or outright scammed when sending a payments. To be fair to eBay, it's very difficult to tell who is telling the truth in many of those fraud incidents, but Amazon gained huge customer loyalty by essentially always siding with buyers, quite often. This was unfair on Amazon sellers, but Jeff Bezos, his insistence on putting the customer first made economic sense because ultimately, the sellers will tend to go where the customers are. And if customers become loyal to Amazon, sellers often feel they have to go there too. So with Amazon gaining such fast momentum that eBay CEO at the time, John Donahoe, wanted to make sure eBay was fully focused on their core business and decided to sell off some of the various companies eBay had acquired in 2009. eBay sold a majority stake in Skype to an investor group for $2.75 billion. However, this probably wasn't the best move, as just 2 years later, Microsoft bought Skype for $8.5 billion. Likewise, in 2015, eBay spun off PayPal into its own separate business. But again, this may not have been so wise, considering PayPal had gone on to perform much better than eBay in recent years. And as for eBay, its actual core business competition seems stronger than ever. It's no longer just Amazon to worry about this new Chinese app store for cheaper prices. There's new consumer-to-consumer marketplaces with lower fees, or in some cases, apps with no fees at all. And look, of course, it is still a business success story. It's a huge online marketplace with millions of buyers and sellers, but his eBay slips down the popularity rankings. There is perhaps a sense it could have been so much more. Now if you enjoy business stories like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel and click on the notification bell, smash the like button, and I'll see you